Deliver on what you say you're there for, plus some. Your
Right.
integrity means something. Your name, your good name, the name of your company, that reputation will be with you for the rest of your life. And people switch up company names. They go bankrupt here and start up another company. Oh, didn't you belong to that other? People will find you. And
Right.
particularly in the city of Philadelphia, it's a small town mentality. People know when you messed up or messed over somebody else. And
Well, in today's world, it's not just Philadelphia. There's a couple clicks of a computer keypad and people
oh
will
yeah,
find you
people will
anywhere.
find you out.
So
You know,
yeah,
they
that's
will. So it's really to your benefit. Like I say, stay engaged, keep your good name, walk away if it doesn't feel right.
I'm your host, Les Allen, entrepreneur, builder, and leader with 30 plus years of scars and success to prove it. I've been broke and blessed in boardrooms and courtrooms, and now I'm here to share lessons I've learned. Each week, we'll talk business, life, relationships, and how to build what really matters with raw lessons, real strategy, and the mindset to move forward. Let's get to work. Today's guest is one of those brothers who didn't just talk about rebuilding communities, he literally laid the bricks. Jeffrey Cruse has been shaping skylines and saving neighborhoods for over 50 years. He's the founder and president of Catalyst Consulting Group, a powerhouse firm out of Philly that's helped churches, nonprofits, and small businesses turn blueprints into blessings. This man has helped develop more than 2,000 units of housing and moved over 300 million in public and private investment, money that went right back into the heart of the community. From affordable homes to cultural arts centers, from historic church renovations to mixed-use developments, Jeffrey's fingerprint is all over projects that uplift people, not just property values. A Drexel-trained civil engineer with the soul of community builder, he's proof that faith, focus, and a good plan can change zip codes. So lean in and take notes, family, because this brother didn't just build buildings, he's built legacy. Please welcome to the Rebuild, Mr. Jeffrey Cruse. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm good.
Good, good. Just have a few questions with you. I like to, again, enlighten the audience about who you are, what you're doing, what you have done, and the impact that you've made across not only the city of Philadelphia, but the state of Pennsylvania itself. So I guess I'd like to start at the beginning. What first sparked your passion for building and community development?
I am a product of the '60s, the movement, the fight for
Yeah.
civil rights. I describe myself as a Black cultural nationalist that's engaged in change, betterment of our communities. In addition to participating over the years in the civil rights protests, I also fought for social and economic development around the city and also in other parts of the Delaware Valley area. Early age, I became an advocate for the redevelopment and revitalization of Black communities that have suffered for years of neglect and disinvestment from business, government, and Philadelphia in particular suffered during the 60s and 70s from white flight. People were moving out of the city and taking their resources with them, which decimated the tax base, the impact on taxes that fed the school districts, so the quality of education went down, health went down, jobs were not available. It was a difficult time. So in the beginning, I guess I volunteered with a number
Okay.
of social organizations, picketing and protesting for various causes. And when I went to Lincoln University, got more actively involved in social activism, protests around the campuses, Black campuses, particularly HBCUs. I went crazy during the late 60s. And I got married early at the age of 19,
Okay.
dropped out of Lincoln University, and experienced extreme difficulty finding decent, affordable housing for me and my young family. We looked everywhere. We ended up with a small one-bedroom apartment that I could walk to work from because I didn't have enough money to buy a car or buy public transportation. So my job circle
Right.
was as far as I could walk, and that was it. So I ultimately became involved with the Housing Association of Delaware Valley, which was a fair housing advocacy organization. I also joined other nonprofit groups around the city, various commissions on human relations, the Fellowship Commission, anybody who was fighting for the same causes that I believed in: fair housing, equal rights, better schools, healthcare. So my mission was really social justice and economic justice oriented. The marches and the protests didn't seem to be enough. It wasn't creating any real change. So I decided to go back to school, went to Drexel University to get a degree in civil engineering so I could actively participate in the rebuilding of our communities.
Great. When you started in this industry, rebuilding the community, did you have any mentors early on that kind of showed you how development worked, or did you kind of get to it and through it through hard knocks?
Fortunately, through my social activism, I connected with a number of community leaders, block captains, state representatives, other politicians, business people. I interacted with neighborhood business associations trying to improve the business corridors. So I had a number of people that I was in contact with that recognized some youthful passion in me and was willing to pour into me knowledge and experience and gave me access to their resources. So they helped me to become a better advocate while I was training to build and getting the technical knowledge. And through that group, they have presented to me almost every opportunity that I have had in my career.
Wow.
From my community relations, community organizing, contacts, pastors of churches have taken me under their wing, business people. I've been around some of the great people here in Philadelphia: Father Paul Washington, Bill Gray, Leon Sullivan. They let me be around them. And I was almost always the youngest person in the room. And so they treated me well and made sure that I got what I needed and nurtured me over the years. So that's been, I guess you say, the secret sauce is those contacts in the community that led me through this process.
That just proves again how important it is to have a great circle.
Oh yeah,
of around you.
Get involved and stay involved and understand who you're working for. Okay, you got to understand your constituency or who the end user is of whatever product you're producing.
Great, thank you. Next question. You've been in the game for over 5 decades, from civil engineering to leading major development firms. What were those early years like breaking into the industry, especially as a Black developer in that era?
Back in the 70s, there was no serious development industry here in Philadelphia. The business community had abandoned our communities. Slum landlords were running wild without any check by licenses and inspection. There were thousands of vacant buildings and hundreds of thousands of vacant properties, lots around the city, particularly in low-income communities that the government had just let go. And then on top of that, the lenders redlined those same communities, which made it difficult to purchase properties.
Right.
And the insurance companies would not insure because there were too many vacant properties on your lot. So Black folks were catching it, but nobody was coming forth to save them. And in that environment, Small businesses couldn't thrive. Most of the, experienced contractors were doing home improvement work, but not operating on a larger development scale. And there was the typical
Right.
discrimination in business and letting of city contracts. The universities were only dealing with experienced contractors that could get appropriate bonding, which was difficult
Mm-hmm.
for most of the Black contractors that had only been doing small projects. So they were relegated to the fringes of contracts for subcontractors. So there really wasn't a development industry back in the late 60s or 70s. So it was a problem. So we, meaning all of us who were concerned about our communities, decided to start building our own and literally began to acquire the vacant properties adjacent to the churches or adjacent to the small business strip or other large parcels. We began a process of acquiring those and planning to build. I think my advocacy and fighting against housing discrimination, poverty, and lack of access to resources is really what drove me into this industry and most of the career opportunities that I've had. And it led me to, as I mentioned before, those people who I would help plant a community garden or show up for a neighborhood cleanup or show up with a paintbrush and help paint the houses for the elderly in different communities or plant trees on vacant lots. That community continued to take care of me. And so
Okay.
through that network, I actually got my first job in the community development field with Philadelphia Neighborhood Housing Services, which was a pilot program. Everything was a demonstration. Everything was new. So we had to cut our own path, make our own rules, fight for government funding, get the banks that had been redlining to drop their policies and to start funding not only residential home ownership, but also housing counseling services to help people fix their credit and learn how to be a responsible homeowner, money for small businesses, particularly general contractors who needed lines of credit. So it was a fight. So that fight led me into this industry. And in the Allegheny West area, I provided grants and loans to families who needed heating repairs or plumbing or electrical services or even whole house renovations. And that was pretty rewarding to me, but I wanted a bigger scale. So that's why I went to my next opportunity, which was with Philadelphia Council for Community Advancement, which was also, It was a community-based nonprofit real estate developer. And back in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and probably even into the 90s, we were able to use the resources, state, federal government, all the new HUD programs. This program started coming through at that point to develop single family and multifamily houses for sale. And they were all affordable projects.
Some were market rate.
Back in the day, I only did affordable. It wasn't until probably the 90s or early 2020, we started realizing that there were some African American, Latino, Asian families in communities that had incomes that were significantly higher than the norm in their communities, and they wanted to stay in those neighborhoods. But they were not eligible for a lot of the programs for low-income families. So we understood that by understanding the community that we were working in. and started doing mixed income housing. So we would do maybe 10% of the units that we were building would be market rate.
Okay.
And marketed to specific households, Black professionals and blue collar workers, firemen, Black police officers,
Service workers.
Black school teachers, city
Right.
workers had started earning enough, and we helped them, and they helped us rebuild the communities and also then benefit from those neighborhoods. And we started building then in fringe neighborhoods that were on the cusp of gentrification instead of only exclusively in the most poverty-stricken communities. So that expanded our footprint and allowed me to continue to grow and learn more in the process.
Okay. So we kind of spoke earlier off camera about today, about what's going on in our world today, what's going on in the United States today, what's going on in Pennsylvania today, what's going on in Philadelphia today. What one or two things could you share with potentially some young Black or any young developer who has a heart to develop in the areas that you develop in? Or what kind of tip or mindset do you believe they need to have and they can learn from what you've experienced and what you've done that kind of correlates to where we are today, kind of the history repeating itself situation?
First, I would say do what brings you joy and brings you personal fulfillment. And that comes in different shapes and forms. On a personal level, uplifting families out of poverty, strengthening a small business to increase their bottom line, working with churches to minister to their communities and increase their membership, serving the mental health needs of the homeless in your community, whatever it is. Or if you're just in it for profit, if it brings you joy, pursue it and understand that industry. Get into it, study it, go to conferences and workshops, talk to others in the industry, identify the people who are having successes, whatever field that is in, whether it's construction, wholesale development, commercial development, supermarkets, small businesses, whatever it is, study it, understand the lingo, and make friends in that industry. That's kind of, it will help you determine whether it's actually what you want to do for the rest of your life. You may have to, while you're doing that, just hold down a 9-to-5 that brings you benefits and helps you take care of your family. So you have to pursue dual tracks and be flexible and know when it's ready for you to cross over from one to the next. In the past years, we benefited tremendously from government support, Small Business Administration, the 8A program, other set-asides, the DEI initiatives that are now gone largely. And now we're back to discrimination and white people suing government because they were discriminated against. And so we're back there again. And we're also back in a place where universities are not stressing their social service mission and their focus on growing the person, not only just intellectually, but their willingness to get actively involved in their communities. And so, you have to, I would advise young people to volunteer, get to know the neighborhoods that they serve. If you're a business person on the corridor, get involved in community activities, support the scouts, support the local churches, support the local police district. They will protect your property for you if you help them understand the dynamics of crime in your neighborhood. So get involved, join nonprofit organizations, speak up, speak out, don't sit, act. Don't just talk about it. You gotta, and you have to show people that you have integrity and you're authentically concerned about their outcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, you can't just talk about it. You have to be about it, and you have to spend time with the people you want to serve.
That's
Great.
The bottom line. You have to love the people.
Right. Okay. The next question I have is, you've helped create over 2,000 units of housing and leveraged over 300 million in projects. What was the project or the moment that made you realize, okay, I'm really having an impact now on this community?
For me, there really wasn't a specific moment or a specific project. I've always felt that what I was doing was part of my ministry of service to the community. And I've always felt that every little thing that I've done had a positive impact on somebody's life in the community. And whether it was repairing a broken sewer line in the basement of someone's house that had the result of having their water turned off and the kids couldn't wash up and the sewage was in the basement. So fixing that made me feel good and confirmed that I was on the right track. Doing complete renovations of homes and giving the key to first-time home buyer. That felt good. Mm-hmm. It brought me joy. It helped restore the community, get rid of a vacant lot or a dilapidated building, and providing shelter for homeless families, people who were living in cars and in vacant buildings. That just was the thing I was supposed to do in life. That was my ministry of service, getting those families off the street into decent, affordable, and permanent housing. But I also saw the growth of the industry, particularly the neighborhood-based and faith-based community development corporations. Again, back in the 70s, there was none. And then we started emerging. And what we help do, and what I'm continuing to do, is help organize groups of people, mosques, synagogues, Baptist churches, Presbyterian churches, neighborhood groups, fraternity organizations. If they want to help, this is how you do it. This is how you form your corporation from a blank page, organize, incorporate, build up your board of directors, identify your targets, prepare a strategic plan, which is a long-term kind of 3 to 5 to 10-year vision for whatever community or program or services you want to undertake, and just to build up their capacity. So by building the capacity of others, I've had the multiplier effect of not only what projects that I've done, but that organization that was created through my efforts went on to start building hundreds and thousands of houses or businesses on their own and strengthening their communities. And so all of that, again, just brings me joy and satisfaction. And I do have a couple of favorite projects.
Okay. Please indulge us.
So one was right in a block away from the house that I grew up in, being able to take over a vacant property that was left when the church burned down, and building senior housing for people in that community. So serving my own community a stone throw away from my own house was really a very significant event. And being able to see people from my neighborhood see me working on their behalf. Because I grew up, family of 7, mom and pop working, so that community took care of us. And so this was a good thing. The other was one of the large church projects I did, Nazarene Baptist Church, that was in a 100-year-old structure that was too small for their growing congregation, and being able to help them, again, acquire the land, plan, design, build, and I even helped pick out the pews and the fabrics for the seat coverings, and helped design the stained glass windows, and really got involved. And that was a really enjoyable experience. And even though that was some 30 years ago, I'm still in communication with some of the families and the pastor there at that church, where we become extended family. And dignity housing for the homeless, providing shelter for, I think it was almost 150 homeless families with children.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Abused women that needed shelter from their abusers. So that was very significant. And I also met my wife at that organization. So I had a win-win.
That's right. That's a great story. And then also it's nothing like seeing the ripple that you help create
Yeah,
move and do other
yeah,
things.
you're
And so
right.
that was
And
great.
and one of my largest projects was a 70,000 square foot warehouse that was owned and operated from a group of guys from the neighborhood, from West Philadelphia, that started off with a small office supply and educational supply company, expanded
Mm.
to include medical supplies and incipient chemicals for the pharmaceutical industry, and was outgrowing their rental space, and being able to acquire a number of acres of vacant ground from the city, and building a 70,000 square foot warehouse that basically quadrupled their capacity. And they also not only were building to increase their own economic benefit, but they give back to the community, and they hire a lot of the guys from the neighborhood with limited education, or returning citizens from our penal system, and
Yes.
veterans from the neighborhood. And their mission was to grow, but also to serve. So their capacity also increased their ability to hire additional people. So that was another one of those. And so we were able to sit around and talk about our experiences in the neighborhood while we were doing our business and planning and constructing that warehouse.
Yeah, it's so gratifying. I was able to do several projects myself where I in the neighbor in and around the neighborhood where I grew up in, and there's nothing like seeing someone that you grew up with, or one of the elderly people who helped raise you as a neighborhood neighbor, as a
Right.
neighbor, see them smile when they see the work that you do. So no, that's understandable. Which kind of is a great segue into the next question I have, which is, you've worked with everyone from churches to nonprofits to private developers. What's your secret in keeping those collaborations productive and mission driven when money and vision can pull people in different directions, especially when people in small neighborhoods, really haven't seen the type of potentially hadn't seen the type of dollars that have to be raised or are being spent on these projects? What's kind of the secret to keeping things together?
I think open and honest and frequent communication with your client, or with that nonprofit or for-profit organization, helps to get them to understand that this is a long-term process. Development does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of time and a lot of resources. And I try not to focus on money first. I try to focus on what is the need that you are trying to serve. Are you trying to provide health services to the people in the neighborhood where the hospital just closed? Are you trying to provide daycare for young families that can't afford it, And so are
Right.
you trying to step into the gap to do that? Are you trying to create jobs? Are you trying to
What's the mission?
be mission oriented and don't fall in love with the money? Because most of
Mhm.
the nonprofit and for-profit partners that I've worked with over the years have never seen this amount of money. They haven't seen
Right.
monies in the millions, and so you have to kind of get them to not focus on the money and also not focus on what you don't have. Do an
Right.
assessment of the assets in your neighborhood. Look internally first at your skill sets that you have right in your own circle, and think about the money when you need the money. But
Right.
always keep a lookout for opportunities and to plan ahead and to be ready for opportunity. I think you also have to build up trust as a developer or as a consultant. You have to build
Hmm.
up trust. So not only competency, so there are a lot of very technically competent people out there, but they don't listen. I've come across architects and engineers and contractors.
Right.
They don't listen. So they take a little bit and try to run with it and maximize their profit. So you have to slow folks down and you have to listen first, and then you have to give people back things that they understand in very simple bullet point sound bites until they grow. They're not developers. They're pastors of
Right.
churches, they're trustees, they're small business owners that are making $100,000 a year. So when you sit down and start talking about $5 million, $20 million, $100 million for a project, it scares them. So you gotta
Right.
spoon feed your client often, and you have to make sure they understand that they need to be prepared for the opportunities as they come up, and to be
So,
patient and look at the long term. Don't look only for the short term money.
and I can imagine that working with community groups and nonprofits isn't all rosy.
Uh,
And I'm sure there's times and there have been projects that you had to kind of say, you know what, I think we're gonna kind of go. We're headed in different directions, and I can imagine that it may have been hard or it may have been very easy to do. But from a development standpoint, how do you know when to walk away from a deal that doesn't align with your values, especially dealing with community-based
it,
groups?
it is very difficult when you're working with organizations or small businesses. They have a leadership structure, and with that comes a lot of personalities and egos. You have to have some drive to take the kind of risks that business people take or others take who lead organizations. So learning how to work with those personalities has always been a challenge. So you have to take some time and get to know people. You have to also then try to get them to lower their expectations and lower your own expectations about what's realistic and what's not. I have been so fortunate to only work with people that I like, people who choose me and I choose them. So
Right.
you have to kind of work back and forth. I've turned down a lot of jobs where the mission or the personality doesn't really align with my values.
That's
And
key.
that's so it reduces the friction when you have alignment with personal mission, the goals and objectives of your client, and the end result that's going to benefit the community. So it really does help to spend some time doing that. You have to let people know it's going to take much longer and cost so much more money than what you anticipated when you start off. So I also try to tell people to minimize their risk, so don't jump ahead of things. kind of follow the process, be prepared, but don't overspend upfront on pre-development money. The other thing is most organizations think so short term, they don't prepare and set themselves up to be successful. So one of the things I've found to help is to start early on building up a pre-development fund where you can do your feasibility analysis, your surveys, your site control, your phase one environmentals. You can take your time and get to know people and start understanding the order of magnitude of things. You can go to briefing sessions where other projects are being competitively bid. Sit in. You're not ready for it, but sit in and start listening. Learn the lingo. And then identify potential mentors, and those things help. So get to know people with money and influence. You will never have enough money to self-fund most of your projects. And your projects are not isolated. You always have a need for zoning, building permits, set-asides and variances for drainage. And I mean, you need to know these people. They need to know you. They need to have seen your face often enough and know your affiliation. So go to, as my wife says, every barn door opening. Whatever's going on, whenever there's a groundbreaking or a celebration of somebody else's project, be there.
Show your face.
Show your face, celebrate with them, get involved, know people, volunteer if somebody needs some help, be prepared to do some pro bono work. Your skills are very valuable. Your experiences are valuable, so passing those things on. And be flexible, and sometimes as a developer, you have to understand your own shortcomings. It might be cash, it might be some technical skill, it might be some political connection. So be prepared to be flexible and bring in partners when you need to. Be prepared to give up half of the developer fee, because it's much better than not getting that job and not getting any developer fee at all. So really,
50. I was gonna say 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
That is absolutely correct. So don't try to go it alone. If you need somebody, call them. So that's where building up a team, actually a pool of committed, dedicated, highly skilled professionals that you can pick up the phone and ask a question or ask them to do a discrete component of your project. And knowing their skill set and their personalities, each architect is not the one for this particular project. He's not ready for that. She's not ready for this. I'm not hiring this attorney. I'm not, you have to mix the personalities well to come up with a team that minimizes the friction. You're going to have tension and friction and nervousness and shouting matches, and because these are really serious decisions and a lot of risk involved. You try to minimize your risk, but you have to stay focused on the long-term, outcome. And
correct.
I've been through periods where there was government funding and there were not government funding. And it's been, I went through something called the Nixon moratorium, where for a 4-year period, they shut down HUD. No funding was going out, so. That kind of sounds like something that may come again. Now they're like, no, get rid of this, get rid of that, shut whatever they're benefiting from, shut it down. They're getting emboldened, they're getting empowered, they're gaining too much, they're getting too smart. And when people say that, you need to just make sure you depend on your own network. I'm an avid component of the do for self philosophy. I know it
Yes.
kind of came out of the Nation of Islam,
Hmm.
but it is a highly practical philosophy to live by. Do
Yes,
for
it is.
yourself. Do for
Yes,
yourself.
it is.
Build your own community. Take control whenever you can of as many aspects of the project as possible. And then you have a much easier time. And what you then do is ask others to buy into something that already looks successful.
Right. Right. And like you said, they've seen your face around, so you're not a stranger in the
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah.
So when you're making those asks, you're not, who is this guy? You know.
And deliver on what you say you're there for, plus some. Your
Right.
integrity means something. Your name, your good name, the name of your company, that reputation will be with you for the rest of your life. And people switch up company names. They go bankrupt here and start up another company. Oh, didn't you belong to that other? People will find you. And
Right.
particularly in the city of Philadelphia, it's a small town mentality. People know when you messed up or messed over somebody else. And
Well, in today's world, it's not just Philadelphia. There's a couple clicks of a computer keypad and people
oh
will
yeah,
find you
people will
anywhere.
find you out.
So
You know,
yeah,
they will.
that's
So it's really to your benefit. Like I say, stay engaged, keep your good name, walk away if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't align
mhm.
with your mission, walk away. Or if it doesn't pencil out. I never,
Right.
I hardly ever start a project where I haven't penciled the project out. In
And let me
advance.
just let me ask you this, when you say that, because there may be some people who are aspiring to be developers. Can you explain or share to them what you mean by you say pencil it out?
When you start on a project, there are some basic rules of development. Site control is one of the key components. So don't start a project until you have a clear path toward acquiring the site that you plan on developing. Could be a 2 acre site, could be a 50 acre site, whatever it is, you need a pathway to acquiring that site. So you have to now, on a blank piece of paper, pencil in acquisition cost and then know what's involved in the steps and know what the total expense will be, and then figure out what your minimum initial cash outlay will be to gain some form of site control sufficient to prove to others that you have a legitimate project. I've had
Right.
churches go through a complete design process and then bid the project out. And the first question I ask the pastor is, how much of that land next to the church do you own? And they say, well, Miss So and so said she was going to deed it to us when she died, that her family now controls the site. This other slumlord walked away from the building and owes all these taxes. So the city took over the property.
Right.
And we own the parking lot, and we may own a couple other lots in between. So you don't have a fully assembled property parcel to build on, and so you wasted your money. So that was the first thing I'm saying. I can't help you. You've already wasted your money,
Right.
and you are at least 3 years from site control given these tangled titles. So I'm not going to be able to help you. Call me when you get to this point.
When you
So,
have site control.
that's your first line that you pencil in. Then you go through some conceptual development of the physical structure that you're going to build, just to give yourself a gross square footage,
Hmm.
and know that through some needs assessment, community surveys, needs assessment among church membership, conversations with like-minded people in the industry that are willing to share their experience. How big do I need to make this thing to make it successful? You then need a box. And how many square feet is this box going to cost? And you can then pencil in based on the number of square footage and current construction costs and understanding of prevailing wage. You can now pencil in your construction costs. Then you can start dealing with your soft costs, which could be a number of things, but starting with your design costs, consulting fees, legal fees, holding costs if you acquired the properties, permit fees,
surveys,
phase one environmental assessment. Are you building on a site that was formerly a gas station and the gas station shut down, but they didn't remove all the oil from the tank and that leaked into the ground? So now you have to deal. So you need to know all these variables. So what I'm saying, pencil it in, is as you understand your expense line items, write them down. So you start with acquisition, construction, all these soft costs. And then you get a feel based on kind of industry standards and sometimes regulatory minimums and maximums. So the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency may say your developer fee cannot exceed 10% of the total development costs.
Right.
Your architectural fees cannot exceed 6% of the total cost of construction. So you are sometimes, people give you, it's almost like an open book quiz.
Mm-hmm. Just have to, you gotta read.
You gotta read. So people, if you read the RFPs, attend the conferences and workshops and public hearings, and you get to know what you're doing and what lines to pencil out. Sometimes the group financing gives you the budget. They already give you the answer. So here's what we want to do, and this is how much we want to spend for it. Because they've already kind of thought it through. Then you have to then dissect it and see if it makes sense to you and your bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say pencil it in, that's, literally going back to the early years where everything was manual. Right now, you do it on a spreadsheet on your computer,
right?
And it's much easier. Back in the day, it was take out your pencil and your adding machine and go for it. And the last component is funding. And I'll put that last because I'm saying if you have a good project that serves a particular need and it's been proven out through some studies that it's perfect for that location, that good project is going to be funded by somebody. And so you just have to understand what's coming down the pike, where the resources are, and use every penny that you can get of somebody else's money.
And understand that somebody's going to tell you no, or some people are going to tell you no a couple times. A lot of no's.
What I tell clients when they say, we're not ready for that, I say, well, go in and talk to them anyway, because they'll say, no, you're not ready, but these are the things that you need to do. And so that is very helpful. So you need to go in with an open mindset, be flexible, deal with all of those people, politicians, community leaders that have some say over what's going to happen with this project. You gotta know where the booby traps are.
Right. So you've kind of laid out a recipe for young folks in your response there. And I guess I have one quick follow-up that I think is key. I try to share with people I talk to who want me to provide some type of mentorship to them is, let them know that what we do requires to be able to bounce back from mistakes or errors. Were there any errors that you like to share, or one mistake that you made early on that taught you a lifetime lesson that you kind of look back on to this day and say that was the one error or mistake that I made that kind of pushed me to where I'm at now? So, that kind of helped me the most.
I think first and foremost, in understanding your community or the target population that you're serving, always understand that there are people who don't want to see you succeed. Particularly in the African American community, there are people who have not been exposed to the development process. They resent leadership and education. They lean toward false prophets that tell them, I could do anything for you. And when you have to make sure you're giving people realistic advice and being honest, even when you know that they really want something badly, you have to be prepared to say, this is not going to work. Think through other options that may be able to serve either that need in a different way. So be creative, because you have single-minded, single-focused people who care only about themselves, and they hate people of color who appear to be successful and are independent enough to say, I don't need you for this project. And so be prepared to deal with haters and people and be honest with them right up front. Don't smooth it up front. And then when it comes time for a zoning hearing, they say, that's not what you told me, right? That's the worst thing. So don't, from experience, don't make people feel good just so they like you and give you what you want. Make sure you give them the correct information, be honest and open with them, and try to win their trust, as opposed to try to bulldoze people over. That does not work. So one of the mistakes there is bulldozing people over, underestimating their influence in the community. Because that little old lady sitting at the reception desk knows everybody in that community.
Yes.
And they come to the meeting and say, he's really not a nice person. Okay. I heard that he did this to this group over here, or he's trying to do this and that. So you have to, that one person that you walk past is actually the key to the success of your project. Or a block club leader who goes up and down sweeping the streets. Go talk to that person. Ignoring them is at your own risk. You
never know how much influence anyone has in the neighborhood.
If you watch what's going on, when I worked at Universal Companies down in South Philly, I walked the neighborhood, the entire boundary of the organization service area, at least twice a week. At least just walk to see who I would meet. Sometimes it was in the morning, and see the kids moving in and out. Afternoons when the seniors were kind of popping out, or later in the afternoon when people were coming back from work, just to get a feel for who they were and speak to everybody.
Right.
And get to understand. So you don't know that person is actually the ward leader that has influence with the state representative that's going to pass the funding at the appropriations committee.
Right.
You don't know. And so when you show up and they say, oh, hey, Jeffrey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Right? Well, I've been hard working to do this. Can you help me? And so don't underestimate the little people and those connections, and stay in touch with the people. Stay in touch. I can still pick up the phone and call people that I met 50 years ago.
Wow.
Okay.
That says a
So,
lot. Yeah.
and know the people in the industry, join the trade associations, join the local civic associations, get to know these people, and you'll know you got to be in a position to pick up the phone and have your call answered. And so being absent and people not knowing your name is not helpful. So one of the things I had to learn is get over my propensity to kind of hunker down and be comfortable with a small group. I had to kind of go outside of my comfort zone and take a bold step out and not be fearful of being in crowds and dealing with people. So get over yourself. Get over it. Kind of, go out there and take the no's that they're all learning. So when they say no, you say why. That's the learning.
And then they'll teach you,
That's the
right?
learning.
Then hopefully they'll teach
That's
you
the
why.
learning. Why?
So that
What
you
did
can,
I do wrong? Or
right.
how many points was I short? If they're scoring on a 100-point scale and you got to 70 and 75 was the minimum, how do I, on my next project, how do I improve? So ask the questions, take the no, but ask the why. So you can then grow from that error or mistake. Don't stomp off man. Right?
Right. Nope. Take that as a learning, opportunity.
That's the question. And yeah. I guess also understand the risk. Don't go crazy with other people's money. You're invested in the project. You have your defined amount that you're invested in, whether you put cash in and equity in to a project yourself for pre-development expenses, or whether you purchased the property in advance, or whether you paid the architectural fees out of pocket and have a kind of ready-made project to go. Understand the risk going forward and take the minimum risk possible. Don't jump ahead of yourself. Don't get cocky because you think you got it all in the bag. You don't. You never. There's something out there ready to eat you. You just don't know what it is. You have to be aware and see, how do you mitigate the risk on your personal exposure? And always, again, use as much of somebody else's money as possible, but don't take unnecessary risks, even with other people's money, because that will come back and bite you, because you'll walk away and say, well, sorry, this didn't work. See you next time. And people are out money without good explanations, and they're not going to be happy, and you're going to ruin your reputation quickly.
Right. And people don't forget.
People don't forget, and those people got other people, and they live in those communities too, and they will all talk.
Right.
I'm in the grocery store, or the hardware store with my clients and bump into them. We're in that same community, and you have to kind of watch your behavior. I mean, a lot of this stuff gets down to some of your basic home training. Be polite, be courteous.
Treat others as you want to be treated.
Yes, speak up when you're asked, and don't let people down. When you say you're going to do something, you better do it.
Right. Well, I want to say thank you for sharing these gems that you have dropped with me and the audience today. And I just wanted, again, to have an opportunity for you to be able to come on to the show, share some of your experiences, and hopefully some folks may reach out to you with questions and or opportunities there in the Philadelphia area after having a chance to review the show. So thank you, Mr. Cruse, for your time today. And I definitely look forward to sitting down with you again when I'm in Philly.